talking with Vanderbilt political science professor Dr. Thomas Schwartz one day after the Electoral College officially affirmed President-elect Biden's win, and a bunch of calls as we talk about this topic. Let's try and get to another here. Let's go to Susan. Hello, Susan?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Yes, I just think it's really classless of this man to occupy the White House when he promised if he lost, he would leave the country. He is talking his supporters into succession, which is murdering and killing and harming and destroying our country. Does he not have a history book? The Civil War was not good. This is awful.
All right, Susan, I'm glad you brought that up. So that's the perspective of many. And there's that word again, secession. And I know it's thrown about on, certainly Twitter and some of these social media places. You hear her say that. How concerned are you that kind of drastic thing is where we're headed? Or do you think that's not the case?
Way in which people will behave. I can't see it having any real impact. There is a way in which the geographical sorting that's been going out in the country and the way in which we have been moving into this sort of blue state, red state thing does bring up this notion that somehow we wouldn't stay together. I do think one thing that is problematic to me, and the main thing I study is foreign policy and international affairs, is that I do think it's becoming harder and harder to imagine the United States acting as a unified country and in the way you would hope it would be able to do in the event of international crisis. And it does bother me that that would be a consequence of our political divisions, that we would be very weak in responding to challenges from other countries. And I do think that's the concern I have, is more not in a physical secession of the sort that we saw in the Civil War, but more the constant divisions, political divisions, social divisions, economic, racial, would prevent the country from ever being able to speak with one voice and really have a powerful influence internationally the way that we did have for a part of the 20th century, for a good part of the 20th century. And I think that weakness would be a bad thing internationally. It would allow countries that are much more malevolent to have greater power, like a Russia and China, and that it's very important for a powerful United States to speak for democracy and for markets, for freedom, these sorts of things. And I think the extent to which we're divided, I think that's the danger. That's the danger I see.
That is interesting. More of a foreign affairs danger, and that's something that is not talked about as much. And so from that perspective, how have the last 4 years been? Has it hurt our standing? Or, President Trump says our military is stronger than ever and that kind of thing. But has it hurt our standing, or where are we after 4 years?
Well, I think it has, in effect, hurt our standing, that we're not as respected power. We were seen as very divided. We're seeing the coronavirus outbreak and the inability to tame it is seen as a sort of case of our own social dysfunction. The killing of George Floyd was seen as a sign of our racial divisions and continuing problems. So I do think we're having real problems regaining the type of international respect and status that we once enjoyed. And I think that is a harmful thing. We've alienated our friends. We haven't gained new friends among the countries that Trump has courted, like North Korea or Russia or China. And I think in that sense, outside of the Middle East, where I do think a case can be made that Trump has made some real progress, much of the rest of the world has not been as successful.
Well, Dr. Schwartz, thank you for being here. It's unfortunate we have to end on that note. There's so many things we can talk about, but I do appreciate you coming on, as always. Thank you very much.
And thank you very much for having me on the program.
You bet. All right, we'll take a break. Come back. Wrap everything up.